Nancy Vincent is the makeup artist on Our Flag Means Death, the pirate comedy. I'm Matt Noble of Gold Derby, and I wanted to ask you, Nancy, what's the most important thing when doing the makeup for pirates?
I think remembering that they need to be dirty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of breakdown that we used on this, and even though it may not look like it, they were very, very dirty, all those boys.
Yeah. Oh, very good. So in the show, there's a lot of stuff that happens that I would imagine requires some makeup work, from hangings to stabbings to other pirate shenanigans. What was the trickiest thing for you to do with the makeup in season 1?
I think one of the trickiest things for us was doing the sword through the eye for Captain Babington. That was like a real design sort of conundrum, like trying to work out how we were going to be able to keep a sword going through somebody's head and keep it sort of safe and stop it from wiggling around. But we had amazing Vincent van Dyke working with us on the show, and we sort of went through initial designs of it all, and then he managed to build this incredible sort of headpiece with the sword, and then we put our makeup over the top of it with all the blood and all that. I think one of the big challenges too for that was trying not to make it look too gruesome, because we didn't want, it's not a horror movie, but having a sword through the eye is quite gruesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. And I imagine you talked about being dirty before, and there's like there's people get dirty and when they're pirates and doing piratey things. There's also like obviously injuries that people get sustained. How tricky is it as a makeup artist when you got those sorts of things for sort of continuity purposes to make sure like that things look the same and they fit with what we've seen in other episodes?
Yeah, we always try when we're doing the injuries to make a little template of the injuries so that we know, if we're doing it day after day, then we get it in the same place each day rather than it moving around someone's face. But then sometimes there are things that happen when you're on set and someone says, the director will say, hey, this guy should have a big cut on his, on his chest or whatever. And so you quickly do it and then think afterwards, oh God, I'm gonna take so many photos to try and make sure you can do it the same the next time.
Yeah. Particularly I would imagine with like sort of Captain Bonnet's when he got hung and the wound on his neck, like how did you decide sort of how to sort of either like sort of phase that, like that get better throughout the course of go? So talk us through that one.
we had there was a lot of discussion about that, about when to start it coming away. So the first instance of it was so red and so sore looking, and you can't even really see it in some of those early shots because it's so dark. But you see it the best, I think, when he's on his in his sort of sick bed and the light's coming in on that sore neck. And his makeup artist Kieran Jackson did a beautiful job of we did a lot of research on which is a bit gruesome, people who've had that sort of had been hung and survived. So just looking at photographs of what happens to it, and then just looking at the progression of bruises and cuts and how they sort of tail off over a certain amount of days.
The what do you find the most funny thing about this show?
I just think it's so funny that Steed is sort of so clueless about the whole pirating thing, and he really doesn't try to, there's no sort of, he's not trying to sort of fake it. He just doesn't know what's going on, and his sort of questions to Blackbeard and to the other pirates, he's just so sort of sweet in his, it's like he hasn't. It's not like that these days when you can research what a pirate actually does. He had to go out there and find out, and I think that's it's a funny part of the story.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Do you have a favorite moment from the season or the series?
the whole makeup team really loved our time on the boat when they were at the party, the restoration makeups and with the beautiful wigs and we had actually done, it doesn't make it actually into the show, but we had made up one of the guys, the restoration, sort of the vulgar rich guys, with sort of sores all over his face, like smallpox sores. And when Blackbeard was doing his little dance around in the wall room, being silly, he actually grabs that guy and gives him a great big sort of kiss on the yucky smallpox sores. And that was like, that was so funny, but obviously maybe a little bit gross, and it didn't make it into the show.
Oh, right. We've also got, I guess, from a makeup perspective, and you can tell us how much of this is your department's work or not, the character of Jim that's got disguise on for some of the series. So they've actually, makeup is sort of built into the show in a sense with the character of Jim.
That was really cool. And when we were, first talking about Jim and how it was all going to work in the script, Jim's nose is, it's a fake nose in the 1800s. And so our discussions were like, how fake do you want it to look? And David Jenkins was talking about wanting the nose to look real because it's a trick for a while. We don't realize that Jim is not Jim, and so we had to work really closely with Vincent Van Dyke and try and work out a way of the nose being fake but also looking the part until we want to know that it's fake. So we actually had one nose that was put on each day, and then he made us a separate nose that we could use for the taking off of the nose or when it's sitting on the table or anything. And then we had a beard made, which Vico loved. They loved that beard and really enjoyed wearing, which is awesome because most male actors hate wearing beards. So it was I think they're used to that sort of scratchy face, but Vico loved it. It was just her makeup artist was Karen Jackson again, and she just did an awesome, beautiful job of putting that prosthetic nose on each day. And they were funny though. Vico and Karen used to count down. They had a calendar on the wall and they counted the amount of days until they could get rid of the nose. That took quite a long time to put on.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. With a show like this, and we've talked about it already, there's the big hanging mark, there's swords in the eye, there's big, there's all these sort of, aristocrats on the boat with all their wigs and makeup and things. What's something or a couple of things that you've done with the makeup that might be less obvious to us watching the show, but is really important to creating that feel and that world?
Yeah, I think really going back to like the dirt and stuff with the breakdown of the pirates, because it's something that you don't notice so much, but they're in the Caribbean, they're hot, they're sweaty, they're not bathing, and so that sort of day-to-day thing, and you kind of get used to seeing the characters and probably don't even notice, but the breakdown was a really big part of our sort of getting ready in the mornings. But also maybe another thing would be the tattoos. Like we had a lot of tattoos on the show, and a lot of cast who had their own tattoos that we would cover first and then put more tattoos over the top. And I guess most obvious for that is Taika, because he had a lot of tattoos throughout the show, and it began with just one sleeve, but then partway through the jacket came off, and that was not something that was planned in advance. And so when that happened, I had like 24 hours to make another whole sleeve of tattoos for the other arm, but it worked out okay.
Is there like what when you design those tattoos and stuff, are you putting a lot of thought into what the pictures are or patterns or
Yeah.
things like that? Yeah.
Yeah, so in the beginning, when we were talking about it, Taika had said he really wanted the tattoos to be like home done. Not all of them, but some of them, like he's just been sitting on the board and done a tattoo. And so I just started gathering kind of resources for that. And luckily I live with three amazing artists, my husband and two daughters. And I would come in and they'd go, guys, I need an outline of a shark, or can you do me a skull and crossbones, but the skull is but it's crying, or a dagger with blood dripping off it, and they would like do a little drawing for me, and then I'd take it away, and on Procreate I change it into the right sort of format and color, and and that's sort of how a lot of those tattoos came about. And it was sort of a puzzle on his arm, really, that we just kind of had to do each morning.
What was your favorite piece of that puzzle? What was your favorite image on that on Blackbeard?
My favorite piece actually was the dagger with the blood dripping off it. My husband drew that. It was awesome.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's cool. It's very cool. What have you learnt from working on this show? Because this is your first time doing makeup on a film or television project. So like, what have you learnt from this experience about makeup and storytelling?
Yeah, this is my first time doing a big TV show like this as a designer. I like in the past sort of 20 years, I've mostly been working in film. What I've realized is television is harder. It's a lot faster, and you are really, what we were trying to do was like a feature film that lasts 30 minutes 10 times in a row, with kind of no breaks in between. So it's like rolling and prepping and shooting all at the same time, just kind of needing to be super organized, really, and having, I guess the most important thing for me was having an amazing team, which I did, who was so supportive and creative and awesome.
In a movie, you don't get new scripts coming in.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things too. Like we'd done the first two blocks, so block 1 and block 2, and then block 3 was the aristocrats, and then also the other one where the crew are they put on the fuckery, and so I was reading those two scripts while we were shooting. Like I'm on set and I'm quickly reading the scripts to try and prep for the next one. And by the end of those two scripts, I was just like dumbfounded, and I had to go and find the costume designer and go, oh my gosh, what are we going? It was so huge, that block with all that stuff for us and for costume. It was a real task. I mean, I ended up sometimes on set doing Taika's final checks, and at the same time I had my earphones and doing a production meeting. So it was pretty fast.
You talk about this a couple of times, but you talk about like the dirtiness of the pirates, making sure they're properly dirty. Do you approach that differently from like a pirate like Blackbeard that's sort of been on the sea for years and like dirt's just a part of his life, and someone like Steed who obviously doing pirate business is dirty work, but he's come from a background where cleanliness is sort of a priority, and he's sort of trying his best to maybe keep things ship shape in terms of cleanliness and hygiene.
Yeah, we had a real progression with Steed as well on that, but exactly that. We had decided that we would keep Steed pretty much super clean the whole way through, because he's got a bath in his cabin, and it's part of his, like, he's obviously down there with a flannel, wiping his face or whatever. Whereas Blackbeard is so, dirt is a part of his life, and he always has the dirty fingernails and the dirty, just mottled dirt and bit of sweat every now and then. But yeah, we kept Steed clean, and then you can see right at the end, and also we kept him quite pale throughout the whole season. But then right at the end, when he's going back and he's in the dinghy, he's got quite a different, it's like he's accepted the pirate life, and so he's sort of slightly more handsomely tanned, and his hair's back, and he's got a bit of dirt and grime, and like, I think going forward, maybe that might be what you would see for Steed in season 2, is that he's going to be a bit more, he's going to embrace it a bit more.
Do you think, like, Nancy, do you think with this, with a comedy and doing comedy, it's a stylized comedy, right? There's a real, like, great look and feel to this show. Does that, like, as a makeup artist, does it give you more freedom because you can do things that you couldn't do in a realistic drama? Or is it more limiting because, like, you've got to fit things into that style and look that the show's going for, or something else? Like, you don't have to fit one of those two boxes.
No, I mean, I think comedy in some ways is harder for makeup because crazy things happen out of the blue, like that you'd never be expecting, or that you'd never see in a drama, or suddenly somebody's dressed up as a cat or someone's decided they're going to be a witch and they're going to paint their face green, or the next thing they say, oh, let's get Buttons a set of teeth that he puts into his mouth when he's going into fight. It's like, what? Okay. So and then he's going to eat someone's face off as a joke. Like it becomes so, it's limitless. Like you can go crazy with it. And then there's other things, like we had Black Pete, when he remembers, when he's telling the story of, oh, I used to work with Blackbeard, but it's his imagination, he's telling the story. So it was shot as his imagination. And we had the French sailors getting throat cut and thing, and we'd have just squirting blood going everywhere, and the director of that episode, Nacho, wanted us to make the blood not look real. He said, let's make it stage blood because it's not a real story. He's made it up. So we'll make it look really silly. So, the scope is pretty massive.
Yeah. After I've finished speaking with you, I'm speaking with our flag's production designer. Is there anything that you think would be good for me to ask them?
You could ask him about sitting up late at night trying to draw tattoos for Taika's Blackbeard. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it was incredible what they did, the art department on the show. We all walked into that studio with the pirate ship in it, and we're just blown away. You're in Warner Brothers and you walk into the studio and there's a full-size pirate ship in there with the screen behind it. So when you get up on the boat and the waves are moving, you actually feel seasick.
Well,
yeah, awesome.
Oh boy, that's good. I'll ask him what his favorite tattoo was, if he has the same one as you or not. That'll be interesting.
Maybe.
Is this the first time you both have worked together on something? I should have looked this up before talking to you.
No, we both worked on Lord of the Rings years ago, but we actually weren't really together for the start of that, and then ended up getting together during the shooting. But this is only the second job that we've done both as heads of department. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Finally, Nancy, I just want to ask you, what do you think is special about this show?
I just think it's such an awesome. You kind of go through so much with the characters, and there's such a learning process, not only for Steed but for everybody. The way that they accept Jim, and the way that they kind of go off on these adventures together. But they're kind of it's just an awesome group of people, just I mean, I think they learn together about pirating, even though half of those guys have kind of been pirates all their lives. They're learning stuff from Steed at the same time, and I just think they're a cool group of guys hanging out. It's awesome.
Nancy, thank you so much for talking to us today. People can go to goldderby.com to make their award predictions and join the discussion in our forums. And Nancy, all the best of luck with you for the Emmys this year for our Flag Means Death.
Thank you so much.